The audience appears to be on the verge of holding its breath under the dimly lit stage as the haunting tune of Nights in White Satin wafts through the air, and that comforting, heartbreaking voice starts to sing. The silver-haired man who plays guitar near to his chest doesn't feel the need to incite the audience. Just one long note can freeze the passage of time. The singer in question is none other than Justin Hayward, a truly remarkable musician from the 20th century. His voice is legendary, and he is the poetic core of the gloomy blues. In contrast to Mick Jagger, David Bowie, and Freddie Mercury, he was neither ostentatious, quirky, or noisy. Rather than conforming to the conventions of rock music, Hayward opted to compose inner symphonies, in which melancholy was elevated to a beautiful melody and love was spoken. Justin continued to be himself even after rising from the ashes of Swindon, an industrial town in England, to the pinnacle of international music charts, a fragile and battered spirit, yet dancing with pride through song. He was never involved in any scandals or incidents that made the news. However, a deep sense of isolation, hidden traumas, and a loss that persisted for many years lay beneath that serene exterior. It wasn't a victorious rock song about his journey from being a 17-year-old boy in London with a cheap guitar to standing alone on stage saying goodbye to his last bandmate. Rather, it was a poetic epic about his dedication to music and to himself. Great musicians don't always have to yell to be heard, and Justin Hayward is living proof of that. Even if they just murmur, people will still listen. Childhood and teenage years. The little industrial town of Swindon in the English county of Wiltshire is where Justin Hayward came into this world on October 14, 1946. While they weren't exactly flush with cash, his family was comfortably middle class. Poet and school teacher, his father was a major influence on him. The son's artistic aspirations were subtly fostered by his pragmatic mother. He developed the delicate, reflective spirit that would later inspire the lyrical splendor of his music in their humble house, where Wordsworth's lyrics blended with the sounds of BBC radio. Others didn't think much of Justin as a kid, although he shown musical ability from a young age. The humble acoustic guitar his parents handed him when he was 9 years old unleashed a floodgate of creativity in his young mind. He learnt to play by ear, emulating the riffs of his pre-rock idols from Britain, Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley, and most famously, The Shadows. Justin began producing melodies at the tender age of 11, driven only by instinct and raw passion. Despite his lack of formal training, he swiftly mastered lead guitar. During his adolescence, he experienced a mix of fantasizing, isolation, and a desire to break free from his hometown. While he was a student at Commonweal, he was a member of several student bands that played at fairs and charity performances. However, Justin was never really at home there. He had more in mind than only playing music. He desired to endure it, immerse himself in it, and allow it to shape his identity. Justin Hayward departed Swindon for London by himself when he was 17 years old, while his classmates were still occupied with final exams and decisions about colleges. A battered guitar, several sets of clothes, and a stack of demos that he had recorded himself were all in his suitcase. The possessions of a young man who staked his whole future on music, living in cheap leased flats, eating instant noodles, composing songs for hire, singing radio jingles and playing in East End bars were the early years in the capital that were the most challenging. No matter how bad things got, Justin kept going because he truly thought music might cure him. He reached a turning point that altered the course of his life because of his belief and some fortunate breaks. The Moody Blues, who were looking for a new path following lead singer Denny Lane's departure, ended up in possession of one of his demos. It was unfathomable that the timid young man from Swindon would end up becoming their driving force and the author of their most illustrious early career chapter. A guitar, a few tracks that he had recorded himself, and an unwavering faith that music would lead him to his fate were all that Justin Hayward brought with him to London in the early 1960s. one of the era's skiffle talents, Lonnie Donehan, and he quickly inked a management deal. However, conflicts in artistic vision led to the swift dissolution of the relationship. It was my first exposure to the seedier side of the music business. Being heard wasn't necessarily a guarantee of talent. Regardless, Justin remained steadfast. In his spare time, he continued to compose music, record voice demos for producers, and play in the obscure band The Wild Three, which never gained any traction beyond local venues. He learned the ropes of the industry during that time, keeping myself up at night editing lyrics, fighting for the tiniest of gigs, singing jingles to pay the rent. Those rough edges didn't dampen his fervour. They made him a quiet, unstoppable artist. In 1966, things started to change. When lead singer Denny Laine left the Melancholy Blues, the band was in a state of crisis. Go Now had been their breakout smash. They were on the lookout for fresh blood and a new group to join. Submitted by Justin via a common acquaintance was a demo tape with his original compositions. One of these was Cities, a song that sounded completely different from the popular music of the period because to its ethereal melody and bizarre lyrics, the keyboardist for the band, Mike Pinder, was completely enthralled. Justin received an audition invitation shortly thereafter. The young artist astonished the band with a solo performance of an original piece, playing his red ES-335 guitar with an intense expression on his face. A musician or singer wasn't the only thing they noticed. They perceived a deeply felt artist, one capable of rescuing the gloomy blues from the depths of darkness. The now iconic lineup was completed shortly after by the addition of John Lodge, an old friend of Mike's. With that, the unnamed Swindon lad formally joined the Moody Blues, kicking off a musical career that would alter not just his own trajectory, but also the course of rock music in the 1960s. Fly Me High was Justin's debut single, and it was a breezy, psych-pop-influenced number typical of that era. Despite its lack of economic success, it marked the beginning of the Moody Blues' bizarre, emotionally charged and intellectually challenging new musical path, a look that Justin Hayward would eventually fully adopt. There was never any question after that, as a musician, Justin could do much more than sing and play guitar. After hitting rock bottom, he launched a creative revolution within the Moody Blues that was unprecedented in the history of the band or their genre, achieving professional success. The Moody Blues embarked on a daring new chapter only a year following Justin Hayward's arrival. Unique among their contemporaries in every way, poetic, visionary, and completely original, Days of Future Past, released in 1967, was a watershed moment because it combined contemporary rock with a whole classical orchestra. While other bands were into blues, R&B, or the anti-war movement, Justin Hayward produced music that was weird, dreamlike, and introspective. At the album's end, he included Nights in White Satin, a timeless masterpiece that he wrote when he was only 19 years old. An icon of a musical era defined by philosophy and the desire to transcend reality, the song became a worldwide smash with its expansive mellotron, poetic romanticism, and emotionally driven vocals. A string of critically acclaimed albums were made possible by such success. The 1968 film In Search of the Lost Chord delves into themes of identity crisis, cosmic awe, and spirituality. In 1969, as we stood on the brink of a dream, Justin's radiant presence shone through with his enchanting melodies and the joy of seeing you. An affecting look into humanity's potential in the future, as seen in 1969, for the benefit of our descendants. In 1970, there was an issue of balance, a change in their storytelling style, along with political and existential themes. A generation caught between hope and disappointment could find solace in the music on each of these albums. Justin Hayward was important to the trip because he provided the blues' emotional core, its lyrics, melodies, and spirit. His music was always understated and subtle, like a letter whispered into the depths of the listener's soul. After releasing their seventh album, Seventh Sojourn, in 1972, the melancholy blues band suddenly went on sabbatical in the early 1970s. We were all emotionally and mentally exhausted after nearly 10 years of non-stop innovation. Justin was no exception. On one occasion, he confessed that the group had lost track of their intended course. Around this time, in 1975, Justin and John Lodge released Blue Jays, a collaboration. His finest compositions, a romantic symphony that is both melancholy and passionate, feature songs like Remember Me, My Friend, and Maybe, all of which maintain his characteristic tone of nostalgia and poetic intimacy. While he was here, Justin also recorded the eerie ballad Forever Autumn on Jeff Wayne's 1978 album The War of the Worlds. As the project revolved around themes of heartbreak, Justin's voice became an essential component. Outside of the Moody Blues, the song was a powerful solo achievement as it flew into the UK top 5. The Moody Blues Octave was released in 1978 after their reunion. The band's artistic integrity was unwavering, especially with Justin's understated leadership, even though their glory days were over. Hits such as The Voice, 1981, and Your Wildest Dreams, 1986, both written by Hayward, brought the group's music back into the spotlight in the 1980s. Justin, unfazed by shifting tastes in music, never followed the crowd. Subtle, introspective, and unaffected by commercial pressures, his music continued to be an emotional diary. He constantly toured across North America, Europe, and Australia, performing the melancholy blues and introducing his timeless music to millions of listeners across decades. After a half-century of successful music, Justin Hayward and the Moody Blues finally got the acclaim they deserved in 2018 when they were elected into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. After Graham Edge's untimely death in 2021, the Moody Blues quietly disbanded, bringing a famous chapter that had been building for over half a century to a close. The last man standing, Justin, did not hold a major memorial or announce his departure. Carrying a luggage brimming with cherished memories, he merely persisted, guitar held aloft. Private life. When performing live, Justin Hayward is known for lending his voice to heartfelt ballads that have stood the test of time. In his off-stage life, meanwhile, he has opted for a life of such seclusion and silence that he is practically unnoticeable. There has never been a public romance controversy involving him in his 50 years of artistic endeavours. On top of that, unlike many of his contemporaries, tabloids have never covered his private life. His life hasn't been easy though. When Justin was 24 years old, he wed Marie Hayward, a lady from outside the entertainment world, in 1970. Away from the clamour of stardom, they shared a house in the woods in West Sussex. During one of his rare interviews, when he discussed personal concerns, Justin once mentioned that Marie had a gift for understanding stillness and could accept a husband who lived in his own head all the time. A daughter, Doremi Hayward, was born to the couple. Her name resounds with musical destiny. After that, Doremi became a graphic designer and helped out with her dad's tours and albums. They have maintained an unwavering and intimate relationship, an emotional rock in Justin's otherwise sad existence. Nevertheless, Marie's absence from Justin's concerts and other public appearances since the early 2000s is noticeable. The couple's choice to separate was consistent with Justin's character, according to family members who have discreetly disclosed the news. Just a subtle retreat as the harmony wanes. No drama, no spectacle. In recent interviews, his voice has wavered when discussing unsubstantiated claims, albeit he has never publicly verified anything. Justin, now in his latter years, lives alone, commuting back and forth between his house and concert tours with nothing more than his guitar, a handful of books, and an invisible stillness. His marriage is just one of many personal losses he has experienced. He lost his longtime bandmate and friend from the melancholy blues early days, Ray Thomas, to prostate cancer in 2018, Graham Edge, the band's drummer and the last surviving original member other than Justin, passed away at the age of 83 years later. Even though he is now the sole performer, Justin has stated that he still looks at Graham's former seat on the right while they play. Despite his absence, I continue the beat as if we were playing together again. With the gradual vanishing of the names that formerly stood with him in moulding music history, Justin Hayward now faces solitude while remaining silently and unwaveringly devoted to music. There will be no scandals, rambunctious events, or drunken breakdowns. Still, he's got a cracked soul, and music is the only thing that can mend those cracks. John Lennon, David Bowie and Mick Jagger are the names that typically come up when discussing the giants of British music, from the 1960s and 1970s. These were characters that shocked the globe with their rebellious imagery and daring assertions. A crimson ES 335 guitar and a midnight quiet voice led Justin Hayward down a different road, calm and subtle, but with an intensity and longevity that made it indispensable. With more than half a century under his belt as lead singer and primary songwriter for the Moody Blues, Justin has made an indelible mark on music. Featuring orchestral arrangements and sung in poetic language, songs such as Nights in White Satin, Tuesday Afternoon, Question, The Voice, and I Know You're Out There Somewhere were more than just successes. They were epics about consciousness, time, and lost love. The Moody Blues, who featured Hayward, are widely regarded as the forefathers of progressive rock because of these contributions. Later giants, such as Pink Floyd, Genesis, Yes, and Radiohead, were inspired by their groundbreaking work infusing classical, electronic, and philosophical aspects in music. Though he's never been outspoken in the media, Justin's legacy goes deep in popular culture, as noted by Steven Wilson, a prominent player in current progressive music. Countless movies and TV shows have included Nights in White Satin, including Mad Men, A Bronx Tale, and The Big Chill, the Moody Blues, and he finally received the long overdue but justly merited induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. The enduring impact that Justin has had on British culture and music led to his appointment as an officer of the Order of the British Empire, OBE, in 2022. In a society when materialism is prevailing, he stands as more than just a musician. He is a protector of romance. Justin stayed true to his introspective, compassionate, lyrical and digitally driven songwriting, even as the music industry became algorithm-driven, transient and digitally driven. Every ballad he composed had the air of a locked diary entry, with the right amount of emotion and insight leaked out for the audience to grasp. Surprisingly, Justin never sought approval from his celebrity or authority, despite his immense influence. He has a zero presence on social media, has declined multiple ad offers, and rarely makes TV appearances. His music is genuine, unfiltered and unpretentious. It will never go out of style, even in a world when artists are consumed by popularity and the number of likes they receive. My life right now, even though many of his contemporaries have either retired or are content to bask in the glory of their former accomplishments, 75-year-old Justin Hayward is still very much alive and well. These days you may find him playing guitar alone in cosy, candlelit venues rather than on massive stages, delicately murmuring the tunes that before mesmerised everyone. After Graham Edge's death in 2021, the Moody Blues formally halted performing, although Justin did not issue a goodbye statement or throw a costly memorial. Rather, he deftly became an independent artist, carrying on with his writing, performances and tours as if nothing had happened. He began performing in North American locations such as New York, New Jersey and Florida in 2024 as part of the Blue World Tour. He brought back beloved ballads that had become ingrained in the audience's memory during these intimate performances, not to mention Nights in White Satin, Tuesday Afternoon and Forever Autumn. Mike Dawes, guitar, and Julie Raggins were lifelong partners who helped revitalize these iconic sounds, and they appeared on stage together. In 2025, Justin continued his solo tour, The Blue World, with 15 big shows around the United States, celebrating over 60 years of music. He did more than just sing during his performances. Tales about Ray Thomas, solitary American hotel rooms, and the afternoon in 1966 when he watched the sun set over Swindon while writing Nights in White Satin were among his many topics of conversation. Outside of his performing career, Justin enjoys a peaceful existence away from the limelight. Time appears to stand still where he lives in a house in the woods in southern England, completely free of controversial remarks and social media. Through newsletters, honest behind-the-scenes films and handwritten letters, he engages with fans. To ensure that he continues to be seen as an autonomous artist, his daughter Doremi manages the planning and execution of his tours. Justin, who is 78 years old, handles his public persona, writes his own music and schedules his tours. Music, in his view, is no longer an arena for public praise. As a private practice, it helps him maintain relationships with the dead, his own memories and his sense of self. In an exclusive interview, he revealed, and when he takes the stage with his weathered guitar, silver locks and kind grin, the crowd knows exactly what to expect. Neither Justin nor the music have ever parted ways. Artistically, Justin Hayward isn't one to make you shiver, laugh or rejoice. It only takes one of his songs to bring you to tears, since he is the type of artist who can do that, riding solo, singing through isolation and living with unfaltering devotion to feeling. He perseveres in a world where music is becoming increasingly noisy and unmemorable. Justin has remained remarkably unchanged from the adolescent who departed Swindon with a battered guitar to the final survivor in the Gloomy Blues. Nothing has changed. The guitar and vocals are identical. Now though, every note he plays evokes a different layer of nostalgia, a different shade of desire and a different moment in time. He is one of the most authentic and beloved figures in British music because he has never sought sympathy or fame, but it is also because of this humility that he is so beloved. Because he will always be loved by music lovers, Justin Hayward may never have to say goodbye. Get in touch with us if you've ever needed a safe space to let your emotions out, spent a night in white satin, or felt hushed by the ever-changing fall. Tell me the song by Justin Hayward that has stuck with you the most. What was the first place you heard him? Which music has been a constant in your life, even after so many years? Leave a comment with your tale. We long to listen to it, because memories are the building blocks of enduring music.